protests ahead of Moscow vote, as Putin critic Navalny surges in polls. World News. MSN. Outlook. More. Autos. My MSN. Video. Careers and jobs. Personals. Weather. Bellish. Quotes. White pages. Games. Real estate. Wonderwall. Horoscopes. Shopping. Yellow pages. Local edition. Traffic. Feedback. Maps and directions. Travel. Full MSN index. Bing. News.com. Today. Nightly news. Meet the press. Dateline. MSNBC. Breaking news. Newsvine. Home. U.S. World. Politics. Business. Sports. Entertainment. Health. Tech. Science. Travel. Local. Weather. Advertise vertical bracket ad choices. Recommended. Egypt's largest Christian community threatened as Islamists take over town. Recommended. Protests ahead of Moscow vote as Putin critic Navalny surges in polls. Recommended. Obama will address country on Syria, calls crisis threat to global peace. Recommended. Last remaining witness to Hitler's final hours dies aged 96. Header point top underscore header left curly bracket background image URL http://cd.lib.newsvine.com/chrome/world news from cheese/images/header point jpg equals 10,462 right curly bracket. First for breaking news and analysis, compelling world news stories from NBC News journalists. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. About this blog archives. Email updates follow on Twitter. Subscribe to RSS. 0 comments. Print. 19 minutes ago. Protests ahead of Moscow vote as Putin critic Navalny surges in polls. Maxim Shemetov, Reuters. Russian opposition leader and anti-graft blogger Alexei Navalny, front, walks near his campaign headquarters in Moscow on Wednesday. His projected share of the vote jumped from just 3% in June to 18% in August, according to non-government polling group Levada Center. By Albina Kovalyova and Alexander Smith, NBC News. Moscow, the face of Russia's opposition, has seen a last-minute surge in the polls, but distrust in the democratic process brought his supporters to the streets Friday ahead of Moscow's first mayoral election in a decade. Lawyer-turned-anti-corruption blogger Alexei Navalny rose to prominence when he addressed a 100,000-strong protest after the parliamentary and presidential elections of 2011 and 2012 and accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of belonging to a party of crooks and thieves. The 37-year-old's campaign was launched days before he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for embezzlement after a trial he said was politically motivated. Navalny was able to continue with his mayoral bid after he was freed pending appeal, just a day after protests in Moscow and St. Petersburg alleging Putin was trying to silence him ended with 200 arrests. Advertise vertical bracket ad choices. U.S. Ambassador Michael McFaul cited apparent political motivations in Navalny's trial, while Catherine Ashton, Vice President of the European Commission, said the verdict raises serious questions as to the state of the rule of law in Russia. We are deeply disappointed in the conviction of and the apparent political motivations in this trial. Michael McFaul at MCFAUL, July 18, 2013. Navalny initially struggled in the polls, but his support has mushroomed since his release from prison on July 19. His projected vote share increased from 3% in June to 8% in July, and up to 18% in August, according to non-governmental polling group Levada Center. Although Navalny appears to have no real chance of victory in Sunday's election, he is expected to get between 20 and 25% of the vote. Denis Volkov, an analyst at Levada Center, said authorities